The H1B guy here. And today, the H1B guy with Jaime Rabbior, head of marketing at MobSquad, discussing US versus Canadian immigration systems and the biggest differences. It's part three of our series, and Jamie and I are going to cover US versus Canadian immigration. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube and like this video so that I can continue to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention that H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. I help businesses and individuals solve complex work authorization issues in the recruitment process while bringing awareness to employment based immigration benefits. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how. And you can book an appointment directly with me via the h1bguy.com. Well, Jamie, part three of our series, and wanted to say thanks for joining me here again today as we address US versus Canadian immigration and some of the biggest differences. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing really good and just so glad to have you on here again today. As we've already covered H1B alternatives and we've debunked myths about Canada, now we're going to tackle some of the biggest differences. So we've broken this into four parts, which is non-cap versus cap, merit versus chance, path to permanent residency, as well as difficult to navigate versus much more welcoming. So I wanted to start out with what we were referring to as non-cap versus cap. And I'm going to take on the cap side of this. And that really means that each year there is a limit to 85,000 H1B visas that are issued via the H1B lottery, 65,000 for international degrees, and another 20,000 for US advanced degrees. As you know, last year there were 750,000 plus registrations for these 85,000 spots. Subsequently, USCIS has moved to curb the amount of registrations and fraud surrounding the H1B lottery, but that still hasn't changed the limit on the number of uh, non exempt H1B visas that will be issued for fiscal year 2025 via the lottery that opened on March 6th and will run through March 22nd. The other, I think, big difference that I wanted to hit on is there are quotas on country of origin as it relates to green cards. Specifically, there are 140,000 green cards that are issued annually for employment based preferences, but only 7% of those can be issued to individuals from one specific country. So that's what we mean by caps, is that there are caps on the number of H1B visas that are made available annually, and then there are caps on employment based preferences for green cards. So, Jamie, I wanted to turn it over to you because Canada really has what we'd call a non-cap type.
Absolutely. So, one of the biggest differences with the Canadian immigration system as compared to the US, as you've alluded to, Robert, is we don't have a cap system. We do not have a limit on the number of work permits that we allocate in a year, or a cap on the number of permanent residents that we welcome. And there's not a cap also on country of origin.
Mhm.
This year, Canada has set an immigration target of welcoming over 480,000 new permanent residents into Canada, which is pretty awesome. And that number is going to continue to grow over the next couple of years. One other thing I just wanted to mention as we talk about a cap system is the other thing, especially when we're talking about the H1B system, is it happens once a year. There's a lottery for it that happens at the end of March. There's not in Canada, we are not set to a schedule. You can get a work permit, you can get your PR at any time here in Canada as well. So that is definitely a major difference.
So, uncapped skilled immigration, open year round too, which allows for individuals who may be facing some uncertainty to pivot very quickly and consider Canada as an alternative. And I know we've covered, anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, depending on when the process is initiated. I wanted to talk about merit versus chance, and this has always been one of my favorite things about Canada is the merit-based system. And I know for individuals that are already living and working in Canada, there is a much quicker pathway to permanent residency. So, can you hit on the merit aspect of the Canadian immigration system here, Jamie?
Absolutely. So, when it comes down to becoming a permanent resident here in Canada, we use what is called a point system. So, essentially, individuals who apply for their permanent residency status here in Canada is essentially there's a bunch of different criteria that allocates points to that individual. So, based off profession, age, language skills, things like that, it essentially you accumulate points.
Hmm.
And from there, Canada does draws for permanent residents. So it is based on are you employed by a Canadian company? What kind of job are you in? What's your age? What's your salary? All those different things. How strong is your language in our
Hmm.
two national languages, English and French?
Hmm.
So it is merit based. It's
Hmm.
not just luck of the draw like it is in the US based system based off points allocated based off a bunch of different criteria.
Perfect. And I think that's where I come into chance, right? Where we talk about the H1B lottery as a matter of chance. And I've covered it a lot here on the platform. And that really is your probabilities 25%. 25% of being selected into the H1B lottery. And then that still has no guarantee of a path to permanent residency because that has to be employer based. And there has to be enough demand where they can't fill your job via finding a US based resource. So the next thing I wanted to move into, and we talked about this a little bit, but it is that path to permanent residency. Here in the US, H1B visas are considered dual intent. So it does allow for individuals to change from H1B status to permanent residency status. But Jamie, if you can just hit on it a little bit for folks that are entering into Canada under GTS, what does that pathway look like?
So we have a couple programs which is really great for those highly skilled individuals, those types of people that we work with at MobSquad, those tech professionals, is we have a express entry program for permanent residency, which is a
Mhm.
federal program. And as I mentioned, it is a point-based system and happens year round. So people can get allocated, can obtain their permanent residency all year long. And it is
Mhm.
not capped by country. And again, it's merit based.
Mhm.
There are provincial programs as well that we utilize as Mob Squad to help obtain permanent residency for highly skilled tech professionals that we work with. So, for example, we use the BC Tech program,
Mhm.
which is another path for permanent residency in BC, specifically for BC residents. We have an
Mhm.
Alberta Tech program for those living in Alberta, and we also utilize one out in the Atlantic provinces.
Mhm.
So we have options, which is really great. And essentially, how we do it here at Mob Squad when we help individuals apply for PR is we essentially look at all the different programs available and decide
Mhm.
what is best for that individual based off their background, based off their experience, based off their timeline. And we help them choose which program will help them get PR as quick as possible. So having those options year round and not
Mhm.
capped and not limited is a huge benefit to our Canadian immigration
So
system.
it's on a national scale and then a provincial scale as well, and it creates kind of multiple pathways. I think is really the biggest takeaway from that.
Absolutely.
Well, Jamie, the last thing I wanted to cover was the difficulty in navigating the US based immigration system versus the ease to understand the Canadian based immigration system. I've joked that you almost need a Mensa to understand high skilled employment based immigration to the US versus the Canadian immigration system, specifically, and I'll mention express entry here, where individuals can really complete the application on their own. I know Mob Squad's really adamant in assisting their employees, but I think that's one of the things that's really stood out to me, is how complicated we make it and how more welcoming Canada is, as you mentioned, targeting 400,000 plus, high skilled immigrants to Canada in 2024. So wanted to have you touch on that a little bit as well, and you know, kind of walk us through why you think Canada is more welcoming as it relates to high skilled immigration.
We have been here in Canada, have been perceived as one of the most welcoming countries in the world because of our progressive immigration policies that we put in place. We've always been a country that has been open to immigration. We are a country built by immigrants, and that is a value that we have held for a very long time. We believe really in we have labor gaps in our current market, and we want to
Mhm,
fill those with skilled immigrants.
mhm,
And that just has been something Canada has been very proud of. One of our greatest assets is our immigration system. We
mhm,
truly believe that, especially here at Mob Squad.
mhm,
And because of that, of course, our policies in turn make it easier for people to navigate the system and to come to Canada because that's what we want.
mhm,
So it's really just around what our values are as a country, which is very much a welcoming to newcomers, is we
mhm.
have to make sure that our policies match that.
Yeah, and I think it also is less complex for families, the spouses and dependents as well, and that's a really key, element that sometimes gets easily overlooked here in the U.S. and also for those that are considering Canada as an option. Well, Jamie, this concludes our part three of our series. And, I just wanted to say thank you for taking time to join me and help shed some light on H1B alternatives, debunking myths in Canada, and really covering the differences between US and Canadian immigration systems. If you're interested in finding out more, of course, mobsquad.io, up in that upper right hand corner of their website is a get started button. And if you're interested in more employment based immigration benefits surrounding H1B visas and US based green cards for employment, please check out the H1BGuy.com. Wanted to remind everyone that today's post was brought to you exclusively by Mob Squad. Are you a technology professional facing US work visa related challenges? Don't leave your fate up to chance. Our partner, Mob Squad, has a solution. Mob Squad helps technology professionals facing U.S. work visa related uncertainty remain working with their current U.S. employer nearshore from Canada, as well as technology professionals from around the world who are seeking to find a rewarding opportunity in North America. Through their partnership with the Canadian government, they can obtain a Canadian work permit for you and your spouse in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. So, whether you're looking to stay working with your current US employer or you want to find a new opportunity in Canada, please find out how the team at Mob Squad can help you via the link in the video description below. Join the squad. Just wanted to ask everyone again to please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we post new content here to this channel. Jamie, I just want to say thank you again for your continued partnership with the H1B Guy and Mob Squad. As I mentioned when I had Arif on, we are in an agreement through the remainder of 2024. So the audience is going to continue to hear more about Mob Squad and just couldn't be any more excited to continue this endeavor with you. So thank you so much for joining me on this series. Where can people find you, Jamie?
One, find us on our website, mobsquad.io. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn. I would absolutely love that. We love to hear directly from people from this wonderful community that you've built. So please like us on Instagram, find us
Yeah.
on Facebook, LinkedIn, all that.
YouTube.
We're everywhere. YouTube.
Yeah.
Please don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you.
And I'll put a link to your LinkedIn in the video description below, and I have the YouTube channel linked as well. So
Please do.
uh, for Jamie, I'm Robert. I'm the H1B guy, your global source for all things H1B.